Hello and welcome to our post-match show after our 4-3 defeat to Stoke City. It was certainly an entertaining one for the neutrals, but lots from a town perspective where we can improve. And to help us discuss those elements and, of course, the fantastic goals that we scored, are former Huddersfield Town midfielders Michael Collins and Dale Tempest, alongside the ever-present Mel Booth, who has numerous years of experience reporting on Huddersfield Town. How is everyone?
Fine, thanks, Adam.
You're better with a few points.
Yeah, absolutely. Me too. Dale, obviously starting with you, it's really gutting after that game, isn't it? The emotion is that we played very well in terms of the build phase. We created chances, scored 3 goals, but ultimately came away with no points.
Yeah, it's difficult. We're going to talk all day, and all Town fans see Town playing out from the back, overplaying. We're all going to say it. The one thing I would say, you can't be too critical on the people who are trying to play the way they've been asked to play by the manager. The key is, and it was talked in the commentary when Oggy was talking about it, it's about that game management. And when you watch Liverpool do it with Edison and Alisson at City, those two keepers, Amelia at Leeds, they ping the ball 30 yards over that press. So when the press comes, somebody has to be aware that the 2 wide men are in those set positions. You ping the ball 30 yards over in their areas. And at the moment, Town are playing, they're playing some beautiful football, but teams are mugging them, absolutely mugging them, because they're overplaying without that awareness. There is a 30-yard ball to get us out of trouble here. So very frustrating for everybody involved with Town. The players will be on the floor. You're chasing away from home. They were the better side all the way through the game. Really tough for everyone to take. But, you know, a lot more positives to take out of it than negatives.
Yeah, I think you hit the nail on the head there. There's lots of positives. In terms of the goals we conceded, Michael, it was kind of just picking off our mistakes, like Dale said, wasn't it?
Yeah, and I think that'll be the most frustrating thing. I mean, you know, as you've already said, the attacking play at times today, the first 2 goals were exceptional. The link play between Toffolo and Karoma, you know, for him to get in behind, and he dinks a lovely little ball back to Whiting, who I thought had a really, really strong game. You just can't legislate for them sort of goals that they've conceded today. I mean, you know, getting caught in possession for the second one, I think it was Hogg that got caught and they end up in behind very quickly. And then the third one's the killer. Right on the stroke of half time, you're 2-2 away from home. Get yourself into the dressing room, you know, dust yourselves down, have a little discussion about how you're going to approach the second half. And they just didn't do it. And the disappointing thing for me is, and I agree with Dale in the fact that when the press is coming, you've got to go over it. But as a group of players there, I'm not even taking that chance altogether. As I say, it's 2-2, 45th minute, get up the pitch, let the keeper go long. You know, obviously take it away and basically get in at half time. And as I say, just readdress. And I don't lay that at the manager's door either. You know, that's certainly the identity that's been put in place now, and that will happen continually, that they'll play out from the back. But I don't think the manager there has any problem if that group of players say, no, on this occasion, 2-2, close to half time, we're up the pitch. Nobody's going to ask any questions in the dressing rooms. I'd be very surprised if Carlos had turned round and said, on that occasion, why are you not playing out from the back? He'd have fully understood it. So very, very strange, bizarre decision, and ultimately got punished for it. And then second half, you're up against it.
I can imagine in that situation, Joel was kind of caught in 2 minds, wasn't he? He knows the identity. He wants to impress. It's on his debut, playing out from the back. That's what he's been told to do. But equally, on the flip side, it's all about game management in those situations, isn't it?
It is, yeah, but that's what I think the experience players on the pitch. You know, you've got Richard Stearman, who's got, you know, over 100 odd games, more than 100 odd games within the Championship and at that level and higher. So for me, he's got to take a little bit of responsibility there. And, you know, as a keeper who's coming in, who's probably a little bit nervous and desperate to impress, just take the onus off him and say, look, on this occasion, we're going up the pitch. It's 2-2. You know, we're well in the game. Conditions are tricky anyway. It was a really wet, miserable kind of afternoon. Just go into the changing rooms, as I say, readdress, and then get yourself back out for the second half in a really strong, commanding position to go on and potentially win the game.
And we'll run through the goals. Mel, starting with you. Obviously, we took the lead through Carol Eiting. There was loads to like, wasn't there, about that goal?
Yeah, it was a terrific goal. Yeah, I mean, I've really enjoyed what Carol Eiting has brought to the team this season. To be quite honest, and I've said it before, I was delighted for him to get the goal against Luton, and he's followed up not only with the goal but with an assist as well, and he just looks a quality footballer on the ball. He seems to have more time. He's got that little creative edge, that bit of ingenuity, and I really like him as a footballer. One or two people have questioned, obviously match fitness. He's come to us on loan from Ajax because he wasn't match fit. He's had his injury problems, but, he brings a real touch of quality to that creative department. And it was a super goal, as Mikey's already said. A lovely little bit of interplay down the left-hand side between Josh Karoma and Harry Toffolo. And I mean, Toffs has been great this season, getting forward. But not only that, picking out people. And I mean, he spotted him superbly, and Eiting had found a big pocket of space. And it was a lovely left foot half volley. It was a cracking finish as well. But then he showed his quality then, obviously, when he linked up with Isaac for for his goal. But the ultimate frustration is that it all went out the window. We just got ourselves back into the game at 2-2, and then you throw it all away again. And that's really the ultimate frustration, is that these giveaway goals have cost us probably 3 points.
Yeah, and then sticking with Carol Eiting, Dale, he was really impressive today, wasn't he? He's picking the passes, threading the ball through the lines. We'll talk about Isaac's goal, obviously our second, a little bit later, but it was a great, the way he finds space, the way he picks the players out, the way he sees pictures on the pitch that even people in the stands can't see. He's a real talent, isn't he?
Yeah, absolutely. I think what's interesting, I looked before the game, it's the first time where I know there was 9 of them on there, but it's the first time I've looked at a Town bench and thought, well, there's plenty of options there. Ward was coming up. Danny Ward's going to be a big positive, getting him back fit. Schindler's obviously on the bench there, Bakuna coming on. So there's options there, and that's because players like Eiting who come in and look different class. Pippa looks different class. And I think Town fans have to look at this as an overall picture. The start of the season, I work in the betting industry. Town, one of the favourites to be going down. The change of management, you're selling Carl and Grant for however much that was, you're stabilising the finances of the club. That puts you in a very dangerous position in the Championship, where you can just get on that downward spiral and you can't stop it. That's been stabilised by everything Corberan's done and how he plays. The team are comfortable. He's got Toffolo's playing great, Eiting's play. There's so many positives there that in another season you can really kick on when the manager brings in even more players from abroad or even around the Championship that he sees, and a lot of discussion about how well Town's youth team, second team are doing at the moment, and the youngsters that can come through from that. So there's lots of options. I agree, by the way, exactly with Michael there. Stearman, he's oldest player on the pitch, so much experience at this level. It's easy for him to put his foot through the ball and just clear and not even give it back to the keeper. So he's spot on there. We'll learn from it, hopefully, but we're, 12 games in now? And those sort of mistakes where when you start off can be accepted because we were overdoing it, trying too much, that's got to be out by at least 12 games, 15 games. You shouldn't be any more of those happening at all. Hugely positive from what's going to happen. And to be fair, where Town are now, the disappointment for Town fans is that they're looking at that side going, we should be higher up the league. We've not played anybody who's played us off the park. And a bit like how Leeds play, we can beat any team, but we can lose to any team as well, because that's the way we play now. But everything's been stabilised. We're a mid-table Championship side that has the potential to kick on. And if you were a Town fan looking at this 4 or 5 months ago, when obviously change of management and everything, so you would have taken this hands down. So lots to look forward to.
Yeah, and Stoke City's equaliser, Michael, we always knew knew that they were going to be a threat from set pieces. Was it just a case of kind of switching off from the second phase of that?
Yeah, a little bit. I think that will definitely have been something that was discussed before the game with regards to, you know, not giving away any silly fouls in the final third and allowing them any opportunity to load the box, because with the size of their backline, Danny Bath and the like coming up, they were always going to be a threat. So I'd imagine it'll be disappointed that they've conceded to that one. But when you play against Stoke, you're going to expect that. So of the goals that were conceded, although you don't want to concede goals, I think you almost accept that one a little bit. It's the nature of the other ones that were the problem. And unfortunately today, instead of being sat here talking about a really positive attacking performance in which there was some really good, you know, chances created in the first, I wrote down that in the first 10 minutes we had, Campbell should have pulled the trigger when he went through. 5 minutes in, just let it fly. You don't need to be clever in those situations, test the keeper. And then there was the great little pass from, I think it was Eiting again, when he slid and Benzer in behind, and it was slid across goal for Campbell. So early doors, the impetus was there, and they showed, you know, that they were coming to certainly to win the game and go full throttle. And it was just so disappointing that they actually did that. You know, on the attacking side, really good play, really good to watch. You know, a lot of link-up play which is worked on. Even the 1-2s, you know, nothing's left unturned. 1-2s are practiced, the coach religiously. So to be sat here talking about a 4-3 defeat is a real bitter one to take. And I'm sure Carlos, although he's pleased with elements going forward, he'll just be so disappointed with the nature of the goals.
Yeah, absolutely. And then talking of obviously Stoke's second, Mel, what was your take on that? Could Joel Pereira have done a little bit better?
Yeah, I mean, he'll be disappointed, obviously, that it went straight through his legs, basically, didn't it? You know, from the, but and at that angle, any keeper would want to make a stop in that circumstance. But you know, we've left ourselves open again by giving the ball away, and you know, a couple of the goals came from not clearing. You know, set piece. Was it the first one from a set piece that wasn't cleared properly? Yeah. And then the fourth goal again wasn't cleared properly, and it's come back in, and you know, they got a nice bit of skill to work the opening. And I think probably from memory, I think that Joel Pereira was slightly unsighted. Probably that one, it flew in a bit close to him, but I think there were a couple of defenders in front of him.
Yeah, it was through a few bodies.
Yeah, and I think, you know, there is a slight excuse there, but you know, the second and third goals were down to overplaying. You know, you've got to make that decision. You've got to get it up the field and out of danger, and then worry about it afterwards. It's the same as winning a game, playing down into the corners, keep it in the corners, reset, get down there, make sure the opposition can't get anywhere near your goal. And these are the sort of hard edges that we need to add to all that really, really good play that there is in each side. I mean, what have we had again? 2/3 possession, I would guess. I haven't looked at the figure.
69%.
Yeah. So you know, these are the things that you've got to put that hard edge onto those lovely bits of football that they are producing. And I still think there's so much more potential there, as Dale said. You know, with the link up and if we can move the ball more quickly and people just get into that groove of what Carlos Corberán wants. I think there's so much more to come, and as Michael said, that just makes this result that much more frustrating, because you know, we all know that there were points there for the taking.
And speaking of lovely football, Isaac and Benzer obviously drew us level. It was a fantastic run, fantastic ball from Carol Eiting. Isaac looks like a player that's been completely reinvigorated this season. He's come on so much, don't you think, Dale, since the start of this season?
Yeah, definitely. I think there was a sort of a couple of players were left out of things, weren't they? You know, half a dozen players, you know, who weren't involved in the previous manager's plans, and then new manager comes in. So sometimes I think a system like is played now, it suits players like that. They're given a very specific role. They know exactly what they're asked to do, rather than go out there and sort of do your own thing. They end up falling in a hole, a lot of players, when given that personal responsibility. Once they know exactly, I'm on this right-hand side, and here 90% of the time I know my movements, I know my options, and he's thriving from it. And fair play for the manager for doing that. We keep town fans. I hate referring to Leeds, but we've got a manager who is sort of Bielsa clone. We hope, because if he does do anything like Leeds created, then Town will only be going up. That's for sure. And it's players like that who suddenly, boom, they know exactly where they are, what it's about, and they move on from there. As I say, there was some lovely football. I mean, O'Brien and Toffolo down that left, there won't be a better combination in the whole of the Championship in terms of their energy and quality of what those two will produce through a season. Toffolo particularly has been outstanding this year, because it's not just, if you were a centre forward, you would just love getting on you just know his delivery is going to be perfect every time he gets into that final third, and there's nothing better. And the other players around him have to lift their game and start producing that quality in the final third. Because whilst we had chances today, the truth of the season is we haven't been creating chances all season. Very poor quality in the final third. If you look at expected goals, which is the main shots data ratio now, Town have been not getting past 1 goal a game, which basically means that the amount of chances they're created just aren't of the quality you would expect to be scoring more than 1 goal a game. And it's quite funny, I looked at the shot map afterwards, and Town have had by far the best chances in this game ahead of Stoke. Stoke hardly had a chance in the game when you look at it, other than what was handed on a plate. So it's a tough one. On the keeper one, it's interesting. As a centre forward, if I'm going through, I'm looking to hit at the keeper's feet. From that angle, it's low and hard, because Malcolm McDonald, when I was at Fulham as a kid, always used to get into forwards' heads, drive it at the keeper's feet. They can't do anything about it when it's driven there. Any good striker, head down, hard as you can on that wet surface, and the keeper just can't adapt his feet. I wouldn't be blaming the keeper for that one.
Yeah, and just finally in terms of goals conceded, Michael, obviously in recent weeks there's been a little bit of a habit or a suggestion that we always seem to concede after we've scored a goal. How do you stop that from happening as players? Because it's happened quite a bit in recent weeks.
It's a little bit of a tough one, given, as Dale kind of mentioned previously, the fact that that's the way that Town play now. It's the Leeds model. It's basically man for man around the pitch. So when you do that, there's going to be opportunities created. If one person makes an error and misjudges when they're going towards a player, if they go to intercept and as I said, they misread the pass and somebody gets off the back of them, you've got problems straight away. So I don't think it's good. Most teams, what they would do is, if they were conceding goals, is they would go very compact. They would make sure that spaces between lines were very short and narrow, make it difficult for teams to play through them. But Town are not going to do that. They're going to come for you from minute 1 to minute 90. So it's, as has previously been said, it's going to be one of them seasons where some weeks you'll watch them and you'll be blown away and you'll think, wow, that was superb today. And other weeks you'll watch and you'll be a little bit, mystified at what you've just seen, because there's been defensive errors. And I think it's just a case of that's the way it's going to be. What I will say is, from what I've heard and what I've seen of Carlos, I think there's no doubt about it. He's an extremely talented coach. He's got a clear way of how he wants to play. Let's be honest, he's inherited a group of players and he'll need the time to really put his own stamp on it. And I think you can see that if he's allowed to recruit the sort of players that he already has, the likes of Eiting, and he can start to add in 2, 3, 4 more across the scope of 6 to 9 months, coming towards this transfer window and the one in the summer, then I think the club will be in a lot better position. My only concern is going into Tuesday's game, and we're all talking about how Huddersfield look to have stabilised. You're playing against a Wycombe side that on paper is a game that should be 3 points. And all of a sudden, if Wycombe, turn up and turn that game over, they're within 3 points of Town, and all of a sudden it looks a little bit different. And we all know how quickly the Championship can change. 1 minute you're on the coattails of those that are in around the playoffs, and then the next minute, 2-3 places above the relegation zone. So I think Carlos has just got to keep a watchful eye on that. But with regards to the defensive element, right now I don't see it changing. I think that is the way that they play, and the emphasis will be on, not we adapt, it will be we will get better at the way that we play.
Yeah, and now obviously in terms of the attacking elements, Dale touched upon it earlier in the way that in previous games the expected goals hasn't been very high. Today we created chance after chance, good opportunities, scored 3 goals away from home. There's loads to like, isn't there, Mel? You can see in the 2 weeks of the international break, they've been working on the build phase, creating chances, movements on and off the ball. You can see that at the forefront of the game now.
Yeah, indeed. I mean, there were time and again that, you know, the likes of Mbenza got behind the defence. Even early on, Carol Eiting played a beautiful ball in behind, and you thought, you know, you immediately know that you're in business. So that element of it is certainly seems to be becoming more ingrained in the team. I would have liked to have seen Phillips in the squad today. Simply because of how well he's been doing. I think it would have given us that extra option as well. We could have spared one of the defensive options on the bench, maybe Jayden, and got young Phillips on there. And he could have been an option there in the second half to come on and maybe give us a different dimension up front. We ended up obviously with Danny Ward, who's going to be important, as Dale has said, and with Fraser, who, you know what you're going to get out of Fraser. I would have liked to have seen the new body there as well as an option, just to see, with him being in form and bringing, you know, good things with him from the B team performances. I think that we could have, with 9 subs, we could have had that extra attacking option as well, Adam. But yeah, there are good things to work on that we can build on, with this team going forward, no doubt about that.
And that's a really positive sign, Mel, isn't it, that of what we're trying to do here at Huddersfield Town in terms of bring through young prospects. You've mentioned Kieran there, who obviously wasn't in the squad today, but has been performing very well for the B team. But you look in the starting lineup on the bench, there's loads of academy players there that have come through the system since the change and are really starting to kind of benefit from the match experience that they've had, especially in that B team.
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't have been opposed to Aaron Rowe starting at right back either. Or Matty Daly playing in midfield. So there are those options there, definitely. I mean, you know, being ultra critical, I didn't think Lewis had he did end up linking very well on the left there with Toffs, but I didn't think he was that influential in the first half. And you know, I would have made the change to the 3-5-2 earlier personally, and especially with Hoggy on a booking before half time. But yeah, it's great to see these kids there. Edmonds Green is back in the side as well now, back in there as another option. And we all know how good Ramani is. It's a shame he's been injured to this point. But there are a lot of good young players around there who are just itching for a chance. It's as simple as that.
And obviously now there's a short turnaround in games. Obviously Wickham on Tuesday night. Dale, obviously there's not much time on the training pitch, but where do you think Huddersfield Town need to focus their efforts?
It's the top one. I think is it 11 games in 40 days or something? I
think it was
something like that. Yeah, up to New Year's Day or something. It's a bit mad, but everybody's got to cope with it. So you need that squad. The fact you've got 5 subs now, it really does give managers a chance to spread it around, bring youngsters in, or whatever. I just like, at the start of the season, I just didn't know how this could go. You know, with a new young manager who obviously has been in great company, but until you step up to be that main man, you never know. And he stepped up. You can see by the shape of the side, it's organised. They know exactly what their roles are. And when you look at the team that Town took up, it was a new manager coming in who brought a couple of players in, Schindler and Lervid from left back, you know, who were of a better quality than was needed for the championship, and 4 great loan signings. You know, that was the story of the promotion season. He can do exactly a similar model there. He's brought 2 in already in Eiting and Pippa. People, you know, there's more to come, I'm sure. He knows the European ranks of what's required at the championship level. And so I agree with Michael saying, next window after, that's so exciting from where the Town team comes from. And as I say, Bakuna, Diakabi, Ward, Schindler on the bench today. You know, that's a long time since we've seen, I know it's down to injuries a lot of the time, but we've seen a bench that has actually options. And as I say, some youngsters can come in as well when you can stick 9 on the bench and 5 can actually go on. So, yeah, a lot of positives today. And, yeah, hopefully next time we have 68, 69% possession, we actually go on and win the game. Because that's what it's about in the end, isn't it?
Absolutely. Fingers crossed for that. Just, Michael, finally with you, obviously you watched us at the 1-1 draw with Rotherham. Since that period, obviously there's been a fair few games. How far do you think and how much do you think Huddersfield Town have developed in terms of style under Carlos?
I think they've developed a lot, and I think the most important thing is that in that period of time, the players will have got a lot more used to the way that they work, a lot more aware of what's expected and how that looks. And, you know, the training methods are different. Obviously, I've been in the around coaches myself and people that talk, and knowing a couple of the coaches at Huddersfield and some that were at Leeds. It's different to anything you've seen before, and I mean completely different. It's not the kind of European model. It's certainly a South American Bielsa style model, and it takes some getting used to, and it's incredibly intense. And from a group of players that have gone through the hands of a couple of different managers and experienced different styles to then go to something completely different, that does take time. And I think you can see that there's positives in that, in what you're seeing out on the pitch. As Dale says, you know, they clearly know what they're doing. You know, the likes of Mbenza, who I thought had a really good game today alongside with Toffolo. He looks like he understands it. You know, he's always on the back shoulder of defenders, looking to get in behind, and they're playing the passes. And I think there's a lot of positive signs there. And as I say, I just think that you need a little bit of patience, but you also need a little bit of luck. And that's the one thing that they've got to find over the coming weeks, because over this period of games now, as you say, so many coming up thick and fast, the landscape can look a lot different in 4 or 5 games. And I just hope that it all clicks just in time, that Huddersfield, they put the roots down, stabilise, and coming into the Christmas period, they're looking up rather than looking down.
Yeah, absolutely. It was certainly a game for the neutrals here at the Bet365 Stadium. Michael, Mel, Dale, thank you very much for helping us go through that and see where Huddersfield Town could improve, but also pointing out that there were positives that Huddersfield Town fans can take from watching this game. Thank you all.
No problem.
Cheers.
Thank you.